Yes. Now we definitely live.
It says waiting for art. So the link is live now.
All right. I think we're live. We already have 5 people, so it's 8 to go. Yeah, the goal is just 14 people, 1 classroom. For VFX Powerhouse should be enough.
Okay, 22. Oh, hello. Oh, tons of people just joining. Hey everyone.
Hello.
We're just waiting a couple of minutes for people to get a chance to come into the stream. How long should we wait? Like another 5 minutes? How's everyone doing? Whoa, so good to see everyone. Hello from Mexico. Hi there. Hello everyone. So nice.
Anybody from Russia? No.
Let's see. Let's wait to see if any.
Yeah, maybe. What time is it in Russia?
Central Florida. From Los Angeles.
It's morning.
International student from San Francisco, Peru, Mexico City.
Oh yeah, guys, and let us know if the sound is all right.
Can everyone hear the 3 of us? Leand, maybe you want to start?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Is everything okay?
Colombia, Peru, Rico, Brazil,
That's awesome. It's like we have the entire world.
Italy.
It's amazing. Hey everyone. We're just waiting a couple more minutes for to make sure everyone gets a chance to jump in. And yeah, people are saying that they can hear us.
Okay, sounds good. Very low.
Oh yeah, you saw there's someone from Russia there, Ivan.
Я русский, живу в Калифорнии. Настя.
Anyone from France?
I don't think so, right? That's gonna be pretty much in the middle of the night right now.
Yeah, I mean the Russians are supporting here. California, Philadelphia. Cool. Okay, just a couple more minutes, guys.
Echo is really bad.
Someone says no, but I speak French.
That's good enough for me.
Guys, do you have a echo? Anybody? We just tested. Okay, I'm gonna check.
Man, Lorenzo says it's 5 a.m. here. That's commitment. Thank you. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are in the middle of the night. So thank you so much for being here. We're excited that you're hanging out with us. From Canada, California, Philippines, so far away.
No echo for me. No.
Chile. Man, honestly, I think every country. Okay, just
148.
One more minute.
Yeah, one more minute. I mean, it's only 3:08.
Okay, 1 more minute and we will get started.
3:08. Sorry. Yeah.
6 a.m. just woke up. 4 a.m. Man.
No, 4 a.m. That's tough.
That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, unless they have kids, then they're probably up. Yeah, I'll be up at 4.
We have Culver City. We have a neighbor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. 12 a.m. God.
All right. So what do you guys think?
Let's get started.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. Honestly, I know so much is going on around us. Times are difficult. And the fact that you decide to spend some time with us is incredible. It's very humbling. And we're very excited to share some knowledge about the things that we do in the concept art department and Technicolor. Basically, well, I'm going to explain a couple of things first. We are under very serious NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, which don't allow us to speak about very specific things, unfortunately. So, although we want you to ask as many questions as possible, we ask you to also not, we won't be able to answer anything that's too specific, about a particular movie or anything like that, just because we want to make sure that the studios can keep surprising us. And so we'll keep it NDA. And I think, we can get started. So, and at the end of the session, we'll open some Q&A. So if you want to write them throughout the conversation, please go ahead. We have someone looking at the questions and at the chat, and they'll be sharing with us the most relevant questions. And at the end, we'll try to address as many as possible. All right. So last year, we got the opportunity to go to Lightbox back when it was in person. And we got to see other portfolios. We did portfolio reviews. And we wanted to make sure that we could share some of the notes we gave to those students back then to you. It turns out that although there was a lot of talent, a lot of really cool pieces, we noticed that there was a very huge gap between what we do at work every day and what the portfolios were. So we were like, let's create this panel this year to make sure that the next season of portfolios is maybe more adjusted to what we do, and that hopefully makes you more hireable. And maybe at some point you join us. So okay, do you have anything else to introduce us, Len?
No, I think that's we are attached to Technicolor, so it's a post-production company. But we are very much involved in like you're going to see, we're involved in a lot of different type of concept art that we're doing throughout the production of a film. So we'll explain that, and that's it. So my name is Léon Lagrange. So I'm from France. If you cannot understand me, I'm sorry. Just bad accent. And I'm the art director at Technicolor.
Cool. Ivan, this is Ivan Komenko. You want to say a couple of words?
Yeah, I'm a concept artist. Been working at MPC Technicolor for 5 years. So yeah. I guess this is all. Yeah.
And my name is Farid Sandoval. I've been at Technicolor also for 5 years. I'm from Mexico. For all the Mexico City people I saw in there. And all everyone who speaks Spanish. All right, so concept art versus other types of art. And this is basically the core of our talk. We want to make sure that your portfolios match what we do at the office. Next slide. Leon, would you like to maybe explain the difference between concept art and maybe personal work and things that we do on our own?
Yeah. I mean, I think the big difference is that when you start doing concept art, obviously you are working into solving a problem, for someone else, and that being a filmmaker, a producer, or like a studio who comes to you, and that means helping them figuring out ideas, and it is gonna be visual, it is visual ideas, but you're gonna start helping them solving problems and helping them pushing their story. And the big difference is that obviously it's someone else's vision, it's not yours. So you're gonna have to conform yourself to what they want to say, and you're gonna bring as many solutions as you can to help them move forward in the process of making a film.
Mm-hmm. Next slide. So I guess whenever you build your next portfolio piece that you want to show us or different studios, we want to make sure that you are asking yourself the following questions before you start the piece, so that you're solving the types of problems that we are. So first of all, who is your client? What is the problem that you're solving? And most importantly, what is the story? So if you keep these questions in mind, it's gonna make your pieces a lot stronger. And I know a lot of this is based on imagination, right? We have the fortune of having the clients briefing us, so our job is just to deliver, right? But I know that for you, it's the extra task of coming up with an imaginary brief, an imaginary client, but hopefully throughout this talk you can understand more how you can do that. Next.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you start, I mean, as an art director, I have to go through frequently art station and going through portfolios and trying to find new artists, and it's always a bit tricky for me because I would be looking at a lot of images, and most of the time there's like very skilled artists, they can paint, they can draw, but then what is a little bit difficult is that we are never quite sure if they can do the job that we are doing in our department, just because of that problem solving. You would see someone, you as an artist, obviously you want to sell yourself and you want to sell your vision, but we also need to be able to know that someone can adapt to someone else's vision. And so, you're going to see like a portfolio of someone who's, painting, goblins, let's say, and it's pages and pages of goblins, and it's great. And sometimes, those are actually beautiful and amazing, but it's always tricky when you see that to be sure that that person can do something else, can deliver something else. And I think when you want to work for an art department and in, the film industry, you need to be able to show a range of different type of work. That's something we're definitely, looking for. And I think when you start creating briefs for yourself, and having like fake clients or however you want to do it, that's when you kind of creating for yourself different constraints. And those constraints, they're gonna force you to do specific research, and you're gonna start, as you want to design that thing, being a creature, a prop, anything. Those research that you're making, that you're gonna go down the rabbit hole of finding those like unique things and those unique visuals, and it's gonna get your design richer and richer, and you're gonna start going off the beaten tracks, and that's when you're gonna start bringing something like original and different, opposed to the first thing that comes out of your head, which is I want to draw whatever, a goblin, and you're drawing a goblin, and without a brief.
Which is what normally happens, right? When we do like personal work, it's like what comes out of my head, like just whatever you want to express at the moment, and that's very different.
Yeah. And there's value in both, by the way. That's important to note for sure, because we as artists, we also want to be able to do personal work as well, and express ourselves without any boundaries or any clients telling us what to do.
Definitely. So with that being said, we want to tell you about the 3 types of concept art for film that we work on. And so basically the idea is that each one of these categories will give you a different set of problems, and will give you the opportunity to focus on different parts of the image. And again, the whole point is that you start narrowing down your brief so that it's easier for you to work on something that's meaningful. So let's start with pitch work. Do you want to talk about it then?
Yeah. So pitch work for us, it can actually go 2 different ways. The first way is, a team of filmmakers, studio producers gonna come to you as an art department to help them, kickstart a project. And most of the time, what happens is that they need to get a project greenlit. So they need a package. You need what they call a deck of art, and they sometimes have a treatment, sometimes they don't. And it's kind of, that phase is very much kind of a sprint where you need to encapsulate the story and the mood of a film very quickly with a bunch of images. And that can be, like key art, that can be character design. It's something that you kind of do to help them sell a project. And generally at that point, it can be, some images can be very rough, but the goal is still to kind of show the vision of the film. So you're going to have pieces that are very much like designed to help an executive to sign off on a project. So they need to see what they're going to pay for, right? So it needs to be as appealing as possible. And you're not going to solve technical, details on a lot of the details that happen in the story. It's more about the broad strokes and the mood. And that's one part of the pitch. And then I'm going to go to the second part. And if you want, Farid, we can talk more. But the second part is more for us as a studio, as a company. If we want to be involved, in a film and we want to work on it, we would do the same thing. We would work on our side on images and do the same process, and then submit those images to the studio saying, hey, we're here, we want to, interested into working on that film, maybe you want to hire us. And that's kind of the pitch on our, studio side opposed to client side. But both of them, they have most of the time very little money, involved. So it needs to be like fast paced, and you need to cover as much ground as possible in that time.
Yeah, I guess to summarize, it would be this type of work, if you decide to create a portfolio piece that is like that matches our pitch pipeline, you want to create something that's very inspiring, punchy, very straight to the point. Think of the movie you're trying to illustrate, and then in that movie, you probably are going to want to find that scene that could encapsulate the entire movie. Like, what is that scene that you want to illustrate that would sell the movie that you're creating? So that's usually, you know, like the apex, the most important part. And so it's this type of work will have to inspire the rest of the process, right? Like these images, it's about inspiration,
Mood.
I think the emotion was sort of very often sort of mentioned by clients, that they want to convey certain emotion, because when you pitch into people like suits, how they call suits, they don't really like technical. It's all about how you hook them with emotion, and so yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that would be your pitch portfolio piece. So let's move on to pre-production.
Yeah. Well, pre-production is really when you get at the core of what an art department does, and that's when you start defining, you know, visual language for a film, and you start really looking into designing those things set, you know, in that visual language, and you need to make sure to be thorough in the way you design things, and to go to a way to design it in a way that can be built later on down the line. So it being by, you know, like prop department, or, you know, costume designer, you know, production designer, or even, you know, the CG team in post-production, when they have to build the digital sets or creatures, or so that's kind of that's kind of the pre-production phase. It can last like a fairly long amount of time, because that's very much like you get involved into designing a lot of things, from the, you know, the large step to like very detailed props, and basically at that point, most of the time what happens is like you have kind of two groups. You have the studio who is actually gonna have his own pre-production art department. Most of the time it's on set. And they're gonna hire artists from all over, and those artists are just gonna focus, each one of them, on specific tasks. And then there is a department like ours, who's gonna be on the side, and who is going to do the same type of work. And for us, what happened at that point is that we're gonna have a lot of different clients, and that can be production designer, costume designer, that can also be VFX supervisor, because more and more, obviously, we're using CG, you know, in film, and so those supervisors are more and more important as well. So you're gonna, you know, refer to them, like I was saying, helping, you know, figuring out like digital sets and creatures and all that type of work too.
Yeah, I think in this, if we were to have a metaphor, this is the part where you become a bit of an architect, where you're creating the blueprints for things to be built. So whereas in pitch, the things are broad and inspirational and a bit loose, in this one is where you want to get into like the details. You know, if you are a modeler, like if you're good with modeling, then you know, you actually tell us what the arm does. If you are doing pre-production for a key scene, you want to maybe show us what the environment looks like. This is the point where you investigate and give options and ideas for that investigation, and whatever you make should be able to be built, right? Like from here, you're gonna send it to multiple departments to be built, and so this is where you kind of stop hiding all the stuff that you could hide maybe in a pitch piece. And you wanted to talk about this frame.
I also wanted to jump on what you just said as well. I mean, that's also when, you know, artists who use 3D gets pretty useful, because, for example, to go back to the idea of a creature, you know, you can start designing creatures, you can start generating ideas, but it's also very good when you have someone that can sculpt something. And just the reason is because you solve obviously so much more problems at that point. And when you pass it along down the chain, right, of production, they already have something that they can use. You know, it's not like just a drawing that they have to interpret, and they have to kind of try to understand what's at the back of it and what I don't see. With 3D, there's like actually a very useful aspect of it, in that sense of solving things and so I wanted specifically to talk about those two images just to make another point between pitch and pre-production, and basically the image on the left, which we can say what it is because we all know what it is. I mean, it's Kong, right? And this is the difference when you do a pitch, is that most of the time you have an IP that you're gonna work from. And so for Kong, if you know that's what you're pitching for, you can definitely start, just designing and having like playing with Kong and the idea of Kong, and that's totally fine. You don't have a script, it's just visual. Where the image on the right, even though it feels like, it could be any type of pitch already, there is aspects of it that are very specific, and the way.
Maybe you can tell us what you think the brief would be for
Yeah.
that image.
Yeah, of course. Exactly. So basically at that point, what you're being told is like, well, we have a pirate crew, and we know they're dead, and the idea is they're coming back as ghosts, and you're gonna have to illustrate on those crew how they died. And we need to see them in the way they died, and they need to be like, if they're still in the water, and they're still like, everything about them is still floating in the water. And that's the idea really. And so from that point on, you have a brief, you have a story point for those guys, and you're gonna start thinking about, every single way those guys could have died, which, can be pretty entertaining when you do that. And then obviously it's about finding those ideas. It's also about finding ideas that visually are gonna be relevant, that are gonna look good, are gonna be appealing, and that you want to put in the film really. So again, it's a visual, problem solving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess to put this into context, Ivan was mentioning the people in suits, right? The people with the money approve the movie. They say it's gonna be made. Then we come in and start designing each and every one of the elements inside of the movie that have to be built. And that's where we get those briefs, like the one that Leon just talked about, where oh, I'm thinking of a pirate that does this and it needs to die this way. So when you create your portfolio piece, make sure that you understand where you're at, maybe in the pipeline, and create that brief, just like Leon did right now for the pirate. How did this person die? Why? How many of these pirates exist? You want to kind of create this for you, and that's going to help you a lot. Yeah, these are. Let's see how detailed these images are. Like, it'd be very easy for someone to build this after we pass it along. There's very little questions, and you'll see in the next step that those questions do come up. But we're trying to address as many things as possible with this in this stage.
Mm-hmm. And you see, I mean, all those slides, it can be a lot of different type of media, pencil, 3D, painting, anything to get it done. So that's also, something to know. There's no limitation. Obviously, because we are working for film, there's always that notion of trying to be as cinematographic as possible, and pushing an image towards photoreal. But in pre-production, it's not necessarily that much of a problem.
Yeah. I guess we choose our medium based on the problem that we need to solve. Like for example, these ones, they're pencil and line drawing, and that's fair for that particular problem. Right? Well, I wanted to talk about this one, the one coming up, just to give you an idea of what is happening. You have this creature that's a volcano. It's full of smoke, and it's a beautiful piece. But if I was to pass this to the next department, for it to be built by people, it'd be hard for them to really understand the nuances of the armor, of what is happening in the structure. So you can see to the left that you have all of these line drawings that actually show, what is happening under the smoke and stuff. So when you create a portfolio piece, that just think of that, like whenever you create a portfolio piece, that it should, if things are being covered by the night or by the light or by smoke or anything else, maybe introduce a little schematic that show us how it would be built, and that would be very valuable for us to hire you, because it would show us that you have the ability to think beyond the aesthetics. Leanta, you touched on this. Jax asks, how do we push for more authentic representation that doesn't feel derivative or exploitative in our concepts? I think they're talking about culture, representation that doesn't feel... Yeah, and I think that's research. That's all something that you always talk about. It's... Yeah, do you want to take it, or...
You can. I mean, you can answer it if you want us.
Yeah, I think we are a very international department, and we definitely have the need to do our research, and I think that's going to be the answer that you'll get from a lot of concept artists. If you take shortcuts, you land on things that are not representing a culture appropriately, or it could feel exploitative. So it's going back to that. The more research you do, the more you realize what the actual problems are of that culture, and you'll find out your answers there.
Yeah, and actually, there's something I want to mention there, because it just made me thinking. The way most of the time when we start project and we start specific designs, we would identify, for a design, different types of lines of importance. Let's say if it's for a creature, what type of natural reference we can use, maybe in what environment this creature lives, or all those things. And then we're going to start making mood boards. And so you collect a lot of reference, but when I'm saying a lot, it's a lot. And then you take all that and you start organizing them. And it's just to help you think in a way. And as you're going to be doing that, you're going to start familiarize yourself with what it is you're trying to design. It's going to also start sparking ideas. And as you're doing those mood boards, it's very useful, because then once you start designing and you're deep in there, you're playing with shapes, you're playing with aesthetics, you've got something that you can refer to very quickly. And that is very useful, because it's gonna, it's just gonna complement the way you think. It's gonna help you to find more interesting ideas. And it's just gonna also allow you to be a bit less derivative, or just spinning on yourself or what you've seen before or what because if you don't have those references, you're gonna, your brain is going to go right back to what you used to do normally, what you like, or your style or things like that. So having those references actually very, very useful. And also sometimes, to be fair, it can also save your life, because you can also photobash that reference straight on top of your design, and you get something cool. That happens. So
definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So the next, so just to summarize, we went through pitch, pre-production, we designed, everything gets sent off to all of these teams around the world, because honestly now all the teams that build things happen across the globe, depending on what we're building, and even across companies. So you're basically sending your baby off to the large sea, and it's going to get built. So then the next step is post-production, and I wonder if you can tell us about it, Ivan.
I actually, sorry, I was going to say, did we mention about difference between, I don't know how, did we mention about difference between in-house art departments and us, and how sort of...
do you want to talk about it? I think, that's important.
Yeah.
It's just a really quick thing. We're a VFX house, and I just want to let you know, we're talking about the film process, film production stuff. There's a still art departments within each studio that does actually most of the on the location, how to say, more
on location
stuff, very close to production design. Although we also work often with them. So there's also so yeah, just want to mention that there's this part of thing which is
we touched on that when we were talking about the pre-production and pre-production art department.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that most of the time they are going to hire, for a certain amount of time, an artist that is going to be on location. And those are, considered freelancers. And most of the time they're pretty specialized. So that's something for you to think about, is like, well, I only like to do creatures. I'm fine with, maybe I'm not gonna work all the time. Maybe you can balance it out, and you're gonna, be called out on sets, working with the pre-production art department and specifically working on one aspect of the film. And we, on our side, we get to be a bit broader and to, we're able to touch on like more, different types of concept art along the pipeline. When you're for the pre-production art department, it's gonna be way more specific. Also, sometimes you can be miscasted. So you can be, I'm a creature artist, I'm very good at designing creature. And for some reason, you get hired in a pre-production art department to design props. And that's like a 6 months job of designing props.
Yeah.
That happens. I've seen that happen. It's just it's kind of two different type of environment to work into, really.
Yeah.
And both of them are nice. It's just a matter of, seeing what you like the most as well, and trying both, probably.
I think it's the biggest takeaway from all of that is just to know this separation. If you consider yourself a specialist, like you want to do this one thing, and you could be good at it, and you can get freelance like easy, like if you choose that. But in our case, it's literally we are within 1 week can work in different styles, like paint, like sketching, animation, or then doing stuff in 3D, and then you work on which one I'm gonna say next, like on top of plates, like doing effects. That's literally within, and it's very multitask. So if you want to pursue that career, definitely like you need to be sort of have a certain level of skill in all of the fields. So I think it's like one of the most important things sort of to be aware of. Yeah.
I think I would just add to that just to give you an idea of the structure, every one of the big VFX houses like Technicolor, Weta, ILM, all of them have very likely an art department like ours. So that's one route, and that's what Ivan just mentioned, where we're like they're touching on multiple movies that come into their pipeline. Or the other option is where, like same thing what Ivan was saying, is the movie, wherever it's being shot, they also create a little room where they put artists, and they're doing constant art closely with the shooting and whatever is happening on location and with the director. So I think that's a very good point, Ivan, to differentiate for people to know where they want to go.
All right, and so the next step, again, in the field, it's a type of work that we do quite a lot, is post-production. So when pitch and pre-production and the principal photography sort of was shot, we work on top of plates and sort of frames, helping out the VFX teams, like VFX supervisor and composer, who's working on the final stages of the sort of pipeline. So it's usually effects like that. Sometimes, depending if it is there was a change in the script, there might be relighting the set or CG environment. And the main advantage that we have is that the team of matte painters can spend like a week or something like that, and we like doing usually that's very quick, and it's actually a big part of our work where we're just doing a very fast paint overs for the next sort of stage of production. So working again within the footage, helping out with the lighting, like almost like consulting and stuff, then touching up props and environments, working on the effects, and even like even effects on the props that are really shot. With the fluid simulation and stuff.
And it's very much, if I can say, it's very much at that point, it's again, we're solving visual problems. but it's different ones, and they're not at the same, we're not in the same step during the production anymore. So we're helping the post-production team to just keep moving forward by solving those more. It could be more detailed, it could be but it's solving problems still.
Mm. Yeah. So
I think something that happens quite often is like we design something, it goes into this pipeline of hundreds of people working on it, and then the design dilutes, right? So the design started being one thing, but it was a 2D image, and as it gets built and touched by multiple artists, at the end it looks very different from the original design, and the director notices. So that's where we can get the design to come back to us, the actual 3D model or whatever was built, and we do notes or we do paint overs. So yeah.
And sometimes also we will have to, if you can put it this way, we'll have to solve our own mess, right? Because you're being asked to design, and sometimes you're in a rush and you design whatever, a creature or something, and maybe it's 2D, and maybe you're like, well, we're not quite sure how it works from the back, but that's fine. They like that view, everybody's super happy, they approve it, goes down to the pipeline to post-production, and then someone's trying to model it, and then they want it to move, and they realize, well, actually it's not working. And that's the type of stuff that would come back to us as well, and we're gonna have to help them solve that. And that could be by doing more paint overs, that could be, helping with the 3D, it could be lots of different things, but that's part of post-production as well.
Okay. Another part that I'd like to touch on in terms of post-production is this is where a lot of the obvious gets solved. So, you have scenes where there's people shooting laser guns, or, like wizards throwing powers. This is where like things that maybe people didn't think about and designed come back, right? Like, oh, we have this scene and then they're shooting this thing and we don't know what the laser gun ray looks like. And this is something that I've never seen in a portfolio piece, and I think it could make a difference. I'm not saying you should have a portfolio of just this unless you love it, but you could have a couple of pieces that address how the power moves, how something grows, how something evolves. There's been a couple of times where we had to do some quick GIF animations to show the VFX teams how something will move, right? So frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, this happens. And again, this is something that would show land that you have a way of thinking that is different from everyone else. I think it'd be a very refreshing portfolio piece to have in there, and you can ask most concept artists in the film industry have done this type of work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So basically, to summarize, we want to tell you on the kind of things that you should focus on when you create your portfolio pieces. Do you want to take care of the first one, Leon, or do you want me to?
Go for it.
Okay, so when designing for pitch, very first stage, you want to convince the suits, as Ivan says. Mood, story, broad shapes, silhouette, cinematography. Think of who's making, like, imagine who the director would be for your movie. Imagine the studio, the style, and then put those things in your piece. Color palette, very important, the story moment. If you have a movie and the director wants to choose 3 points in that movie to sell to a studio, what are those 3 moments? So make sure you pick things that are impactful and that match, right? Like if you create 3 pieces for that movie, make sure the 3 of them look like the same package, because that's ultimately what you're doing. And then very importantly, your piece should make me feel like, oh, this movie already exists, or I would love if this movie exists, right? That's one of the biggest part of pitch.
Yeah. That also, it makes me think about something actually that is quite important, is that if you want to design for film, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but you need to be interested in that. And by that, I mean, you need to be paying close attention to, the cinematography, to, like, when you look at a film, it's not just, absorbing the stories, to understand, choices that have been made, what lens has been used for that scene. And so when you've been asked to create a concept, for like this, like a similar type of, situation, maybe it's interesting to understand, all right, that filmmaker is using that type of lens to create like that type of effect, like maybe like something oppressing, or it could be. But it's important for you to look at films in that way as well, and to understand choices that are being made by filmmaker. So when you help them create their movie, you have kind of the same language as they do. And it's very important, to have a lot of knowledge in art and classical painting and sculpture and all those things, obviously, and it's also a passion, but it should be kind of the same for film. It's important to look at all those. It's really gonna help you to talk to a filmmaker team with like the same type of language in a way, and to convince them that way as well.
Okay, so
do you want to also take care of
the
things
pre-production?
For pre-production, like focus on these for your portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, so like we were talking about previously, right? It's very important to pre-production is really about design, and it's really about solving problems so people understand what they're looking at, and so it's going to be able to be built down the line. So we need to be thorough that way, but also we need to understand that everything we design at that moment is to help convey the story, to help convey emotion, and to do that, to help, again, like a director make those decisions, you need to provide as many options as possible. You need to help those guys just make sure that they made a good choice in a way. So, it's not just about, yeah, that's the first thing I thought about, and I'm just going to throw it out there and see if they like it. No, you need to cover ground so they can make an educated choice and say, yeah, we've been there, and we know this is exactly what convey the mood and the story and the feeling I want for that scene, or, whatever it is you're designing. So in pre-production, all those are very important. And then obviously, it being a set or a prop, or you need to make sure that whatever you design is going to be understood by everybody down the pipeline, so it can be built and be shot in the film.
And Ivan, I wonder if you can talk about the things to focus on for post-production portfolio pieces.
Yeah. I mean, as an addition to a portfolio, you can work on effects. And so like Farid mentioned, maybe some evolution of things, animation in some sort, and I mean a sort of this is, I would say, the main one. Eldon, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, in the list we're talking about also set extensions and things like that, and that's when when you want to be a concept artist and you're really interested into environment, that's what you would do when you reach post-production stage, that they would come back to you, say, well, we've got principal photography, we've shot this and that, we realize we don't have coverage for this, or we're missing, or we were planning on extending the set there, and we didn't get around to figure it out in pre-production. And so those type of elements would come back to you, or maybe it's part of the reshoot, and they still need to add some set extensions. So as an environment artist, you would work on those to help post-production figure out what it is that they still need to build in CG to just fill in all the frame.
It is kind of a bit of practice of matching your lighting. Like you have the actual piece of set or anything, you matching your imaginary part to that. So yeah, in a way, it also sort of helps, and just have general awareness of how green screens works is also sort of not sort of a good thing. Okay.
Yeah. And finally, and I think we mentioned this throughout the talk, but it's very important, is you want to show options. And I think that's one of the biggest, if not my biggest comment from portfolios was, oh, here's this creature that I designed. And I was, okay, but how does this help me decide? Like I have no options, and it's basically just your vision, one vision. So if I was to give you one piece of advice, is always to show options for everything you do that are very different, and as Leon mentioned multiple times, based on research. So hopefully when you do research, that expands into different branches, and each one of those yields a different piece.
Yeah, that's what, it's what a friend of ours called, bedroom work. When you come to people and, it's like, oh yeah, I felt like doing that. And it's like, okay, that's great, and looks like you're a very good artist, but, what do you want me to do with that? I mean, what if I ask you to do something else? Can you do it? And that's when, by showing options and by showing that you're thinking, and actually that same person, I remember him when I was like, it makes me sound old, but when I was younger, and we were talking, and we were talking about, he was saying, I like the way you think. And that's kind of what you need to be able to show as well. The art, obviously, you have to be a good artist because you're going to solve visual problems. So you need to train, but it's also how you think. That's very important. As an art director, you need to be able to see that that person can cover ground. And, it's very reassuring to know that you're going to get someone who can think and give you option and cover some ground, opposed to someone that you're not quite sure if he's going to be able to adapt, or to adapt to a new brief or to a new client or so on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool. Well, so I hope that covers. I hope that gives you a better idea of what we do on our daily basis. As Ivan was mentioning, it's like one day we're working on zombies, next time we're working on fairies. It's and we need to get used to a subject fast, and the only way we can do that is through research, like knowing that there is a reference that we can look at to quickly be able to deliver on those very different styles.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to add anything else before we jump into Q&A?
I just want to add one last thing, for people who think like, well, I only like to do trolls or whatever. I actually, funny enough, I mean, I like my fantasy and all that stuff. I'm a fantasy guy, but there's always something interesting for any pieces you work on, and it being like, a dress for a princess, or like a massive creature, or like we can always find something as an artist that is gonna, be interested in digging into, and that's something that I always find enjoying, even though sometimes you think the subject or the project doesn't look as interesting or is not like what you like to do normally. There's always something that you can focus on, and that's gonna make you eventually like a better artist. So that's what I like with having that, being able to touch into like so many type of like work and problem solving and images and style, and that's what I like about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were hoping to do some Q&A. I have some of I'm gonna go through a couple of the questions. Some of them are for particular artists. Some of them are for all of us. And we're gonna focus on the ones that are being asked the most by multiple people. And then if we have time, we can take on a couple more questions.
Yeah, and also just to say, you can always, even if we don't get around to do it today, you can always ping us, or it being on like Instagram or LinkedIn or anyway, that's all totally fine.
Yeah, we're happy to talk to you guys. And I mean, honestly, Leon, something that is very interesting that I want to mention is like this idea, like we're always hiring, like we're always looking to expand our network of freelancers.
Actually, I think somebody asked how many people in our department. I also like the whole work that was shown is like accumulation of years of sort of the whole department, everything, and people work. I think it's obvious, sort of. It's not only three of us, and people were coming and going. Yeah, currently we have it's all our department.
Yep, that's us.
And it definitely feels not enough at times, but
we've been. I mean, I think in terms of in-house, the most we've been was like 6 or 7. That's it, and then it's a lot of freelancers as well coming and going, and that's how we, because we need to be able, obviously, to expand fast when suddenly, we have a big project landing. So we're constantly using freelancers. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a constantly expanding and shrinking department depending on how many movies come at the same time, how big they are. Sometimes we work on movies for literally 3 days, sometimes for like 3 months and almost a year. Movies come for 3 months. They leave, they go into production, and they come back again for another 3 months. So it's very like, it's you need to be aware of what you're getting into. I personally love working here because of that constant change. I'm never working on the same thing. And although we all have our particular set of skills or the things that we like to work on the most, we are usually put on multiple projects. And I think, that's something you need to think about if you decide to join a department like ours, as opposed to being maybe a specialist who's called per individual movie just to do that one thing, So hopefully that makes it clear. So should we go on to a couple of questions?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm gonna start with one for Land. It says, second, Clever Contender is asking, you said it was difficult to know if a potential concept artist can do production work. How do you end up deciding? What are some key things that they have that let you know someone can fill the role?
Well, it's when you try an artist for the first time, it's always tricky to know for sure. But what you would do is, first of all, depending on the task that you have to assign, you would go through the portfolio, and you need you need to make sure his style, obviously, and the way his technique and his subject matter is kind of matching the current project you're working on. And then if it's the first time you work with someone, you're gonna make sure you give him enough room to to fail. Basically, you're not gonna throw him down right in the deep end with something like very tricky with a short deadline that you're not sure that it's going to be a good fit for it. So after that, it's just a relationship, really. You start knowing who you're working with and what you can assign. But it's really, we tend to try new artists on easier tasks and see how it goes from there. But like I said, I need to be able to see that there is enough content, and that he can think in the way you want, and you need to make sure that he can adapt to different briefs. So like, again, if I see someone who's only painting fairies, I know it might be a little bit tricky to ask him to do something else. So I'm gonna tend to pass on that.
Cool. Let's see. Oh, people are asking for the social media links. Can you go to the last slide? Okay, the next question is for me. Emilio Figueroa, and apparently multiple people ask to Mr. Sandel. As a fellow Mexican, what is your advice to someone that wants to be a concept artist when in our country the industry is really small? I would say that actually we would hire you, as a freelancer, maybe not necessarily for the studio, but first of all, the industry is growing very rapidly. So where before only a couple of massive studios would create movies, now you have Netflix, Hulu, and each country is actually developing really high caliber films and series and stuff. And I think it's just a matter of you reaching out to people outside of Mexico, I would say. I'm sure there's, because I have friends in Mexico who do work there, but if it's not enough, reach out to companies in the US as a freelancer, reach out to companies in India, reach out to companies in Canada. I can assure you that the more, that as we move forward to streaming platforms, it's going to be easier for you to find work. I think it's just a matter of getting good, of understanding what different studios need. And honestly, if your portfolio is really good, you'll be hired anywhere. Again, like as a freelancer, you can be hired anywhere in the world, and we have freelancers actually everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. East Europe, China, US, Europe, like everywhere. Asia, yeah.
So yeah, just I mean, it sucks to say it like this, but like it's just get really, really good. Get to a point where you feel very comfortable sharing all around the world. Don't think it's harder to bring people in, obviously because of visas and things like that. But as a freelancer, we many times have kept people for like months, you know. So it's almost like a full-time position. So reach out to people, reach out to us. Maybe your portfolio is really good. And I got this job through LinkedIn, just so you know. Like I reached out to a recruiter in LinkedIn for Technicolor, and that's how I landed here. So just reach out. Let's see. Asked for multiple times. What is the difference between visual development and concept art? It almost gets philosophical.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think it's very similar. I think we can say it's the same thing. I know visual development is used a lot in animation as well, but really my feeling is that it's very much the same.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys have.
Maybe visual development is like the umbrella that covers anything that has to be designed, and maybe concept art is like a line of visual development. I'm thinking that maybe visual development could be even graphic design, or could be anything that has to be designed for the movie, custom design. But yeah, it's very similar because we do custom design as well. So
Yeah.
it's a tricky question.
Yeah, I mean,
Jeremy Locas has that.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've always heard visual development being used more in animation. You know, when you go to like Disney, DreamWorks, and you know, those guys, they are saying they're doing visual development, and in film they tend to call it concept art. But yeah, I think it's it's very similar. It's kind of the same thing.
All right, the next one is for you guys. What is the part that you like the most of the production?
Pitch,
I guess.
right? All together,
Yeah.
pitch.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Pitch.
No, it's definitely.
Well,
no, I mean definitely for me, like just like I said, this kind of emotional part where you're just doing a keyframe. This is most common. Like the most amazing thing where you get the script. Or you have a line from the script, like from the art director. You do developing something based on that. So yeah, this one is definitely for me. And I personally, I'm not. I don't think. I'll say a lie. I don't think I'm a good designer. I approach things more emotionally. This part is definitely personally fits for me. Yeah.
He's an incredible designer, by the way. He's very humble.
No.
yeah, it's just.
Yeah,
What
I agree with Ivan. I think Peach is my favorite because it's like, yeah, that emotion, like, oh, like this is the moment when the flood happened, where the hero does something, and it's very, I don't have to. I love designing, by the way. I love the aspect of designing, but I think I prefer to work on that moment. It just I get more inspired, I guess. But yeah,
it's
cool.
yeah. I mean, there's also that notion of image making, right? I mean, at that point, you're making images and you're making, that you're conveying those feelings, opposed to when you start designing, where obviously you still convey feeling, but it's like a different problem that you're trying to solve. So I get it. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And there's less boundaries. I mean, if you're in pitch, obviously no one has set any boundaries yet. You're testing those things, so you're a bit more free in terms of creativity. You can really go kind of anywhere you want and start exploring, and then as you reach pre-production, and then you just keep going into pre-production answers, and visual language starts to be established more and more, so you have less room to play. You kind of start conforming to what's been set already, so it's a little bit different for sure.
That's cool. Asked multiple times, is there a lot of difference between concept art for film and for video games? Does anyone want to take that?
I think there is. I mean, it depends what video game, and obviously at the moment, right, it's getting more and more like cinematographic even in video games. But I think there is a degree in video game of stylization or stylistic choices that allow you to to be out there and do something completely crazy, completely different, that you might not have that much the same type of world that you would get in film and in video games. So maybe there's a difference there. I don't know if you guys have any idea.
I'll say that to me, things like I feel that video games are more sort of they're more thought through in a way, for some reason, I think, because people work within, you need to create environment that works for so many different angles and works for within like for a game designer and a person actually playing. And in the film, to be honest, there's a lot of ways, like there's actually there are obviously like key spaceships that are very developed and stuff, but there's very often like people we can get away with many things, especially when you apply motion blur and lens flare. So yeah, this is kind of.
And I mean, you're right. The timeline is different, right? I mean, in video games, it can take you 5 years to go through, a video game and constantly working, as an artist and developing. Where in film, it's way shorter. So yeah,
I would say, to your point, it's almost like video games had tons of pre-production, because everything has to be built and be able to work and move, and as Ivan was saying, like in every angle. So but also there's a lot of pitch within video games. Like there's a lot of artists that are called at the beginning of the project to set the tone for everyone else to continue designing. And so and
honestly, I think the line is blurring. Like honestly, just recently, what people accomplished, like the cinematics for games. I haven't played many, but just seeing what guys for The Last of Us 2, God of War do. I mean, it's full blown movie. Like the way they approach cinematography, it's like so perfect. Yeah, perfectly done. So I think it's getting closer.
Yeah, the line is blurring.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a couple more. Okay. Asked multiple times. From Lail Jahmay. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. How specialized should my portfolio be? Can it include both character and environment?
Yes.
Preferably.
Yes, if they're both good, yes, of course.
Yeah. So
I would say this in terms of portfolio is only put in your portfolio what is really like the best of your work. Like if you have a doubt on a piece and you're like, I'm not sure if this one should be in my portfolio, that probably means it shouldn't be. So if you feel like you want to show character and environment, but for some reason you've just started to really get an interest in environment and you're not that proficient with it, then wait until you are to put it in the portfolio. Because what that does sometimes is that I'm gonna question if I see like very good characters and then like some images that are very poorly done. I'm going to wonder, is that artist consistent? Does he actually have a good eye? Because suddenly, one image is very good and one is not that great. So why is he showing me those two? Like, can you not realize the difference? And so, if you have a doubt in just don't put them in your portfolio. So, but, if you're good into both, I mean, that's what we're looking for. Right? It's like flexibility. And, but, that being said, I mean, every artist has, a strong suit for one particular subject. So, it cannot be amazing. I mean, it can, but it's rare.
Yeah, I think that also goes back to what we were talking about. Are you going to be specialized and be hired per movie, per project, or are you going to have a portfolio that covers a wide range and going to be part of an art department for a VFX studio? So that also should help you decide on how specialized you want to get on one particular subject or in multiple. I'm gonna look for another one. Would it be okay? This is a good one. Sarah Catch is asking: would it be hard to transition from from illustrator to being a concept artist?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. I don't think so. I mean, it depends what we're talking about illustration. I think the main difference, maybe the main challenge, would be in how you're depicting images. Because as a concept artist for film, like I was saying, we're gonna at some point talk about cinematography and lenses, and so obviously you might be asked to create images that are a bit more realistic. And so if you're an illustrator that does only like very, cartoony things, or it might, take you sometimes to adjust to a more realistic style and, to convey those type of designs. But in terms of, the skills, your drawing skills or painting skills, and I mean, this is something you're going to use every day as a concept artist too. So after that, it's just a matter of how you think and, how you can adapt to a more cinematographic aspect of the image.
Definitely. Yeah, I would say that one of the cool things about illustration is that, technically most of the time they're very well rounded technically. So if they just get to get on the mindset of problem solving, I think for someone else, right? Like for someone else's story and things like that, I think the transition is smooth, and I think you'd be successful, hopefully.
Yeah.
Let's go with a couple more.
Okay.
What is it you want?
No, I'm just changing to the first page.
Okay.
I hope everybody wrote down.
Okay, this one is similar. Do you think the film industry is better if you're a specialist or a generalist? It was asked multiple times. Candice asked.
It really depends, to be honest. It depends of your personality, what you like, and if you're happy to be in your comfort zone and just being asked to design what you want to design. And some artists are totally happy with that. And there's value into that. But then, if you want to be able to touch in a little bit more different subjects and, keep, learning new things, then that's when you start looking more at, being in an art department like ours. I think obviously if you're very specialized and, the industry is pretty packed. There's so many artists, around, and maybe it's going to be harder to find a job sometimes unless you're like the best of the best, where if you have a bit more skills, like all-rounded skills, you might be able to go around a bit more and, work on a little bit more stuff. So yeah, it's very much a choice, really. You see both successful artists in both type of job.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna read this. I think this is for the three of us, Land, but we have this conversation all the time. Paula Rojas and Lucas Emmanuel ask, how do you guys study? Because concept art involves a lot of things and it feels overwhelming. And we run into this problem ourselves, like we are so busy. Like imagine you work 8 hours and your brain is fried, and then you go home and you want to create art, but like your creative juices are like gone, right? So studying is hard. I would say I focus on the things that I love. So I don't try to like study everything, because you say that concept art feels overwhelming, and I totally understand what you mean, especially with social media and like you see everything, right? But focus on what you love and get good at it, and then slowly take on build your skills slowly, right? So you start with perspective, visual language, form language, drawing, and slowly you start building your skills. And there's no one angle to do it, right? Like where I like to do more line drawing and stuff, and that's where my focus has been most of the time. Land started a lot with sculpture and 3D, and that gives him a different angle than I have, right? So don't worry too much about what you see around, I would say, and just make sure you're building each step. Be very solid about every step, and do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's also somehow like something to say about being thrown in the deep end. At some point, you can only study so much, and you're never ready, and so you just have to start. And working in studying in a lot of ways, because you're gonna learn so much. So, as soon as you start working and you're being asked to do stuff that you've never done before, and that's when you start, learning and working on. And yeah, of course, you want to spend some extra time maybe to work on stuff you like, or that you think you want to get better at something. And after that, you just try to find some time during the day. In the morning, you can maybe wake up super early, or, you work in the evening. After a full day of work, the evening might be, feeling a bit tough. I'm not even, talking if you have a kid or something, because that's also another problem.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's, if you're really interested into something, you'll find the time, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you find is the most challenging part of your job? Angela Macias is asking.
I think it depends. For me, I think it depends. It can be like a timeline. It can be like a short deadline. It can be, sometimes you just don't feel a subject and you just have to do it anyway, and you have to find a way to make it work, and that can be super challenging, but the good thing is that because you're part of a team, when you start having problems, you can ask for people, and that's always something to do. Even if you're a freelancer, if you're at home or whatever, it's always good to have people you can bounce ideas and visual against, and having like a fresh eye coming, out of nowhere to tell you, well, actually, obviously this is wrong, and you've been on it for so long, you don't even see your mistakes and stuff like that. And so having people around to help you like that is actually invaluable, I think.
For me, can I say it's actually circles back to what sort of we talked in the presentation part, is stay focused on the brief, because it's really tempting to trail away into your sort of own visions sometimes too much, and you need to always, like, I know, like, I have notes always sort of just glancing at them occasionally, and it's not always successful. Sometimes you sort of getting away from the task, but I think it's really tough, but it's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's see. I'm gonna ask. This is a difficult question from Ranit K. How much freedom do you have as an artist when designing for a movie? And I think you touched on that, Ivan, a little bit. How much freedom do you have as an artist when designing for a movie?
I think it depends at what point in the production you're stepping in. Again, like we talked about pitch, we talked about pre-production. It depends also if you work on an IP, like, how much of the rules and the design you're inherited, like you have to carry on with you and keep pushing forward. Is it something that you're creating from scratch? Are you helping, the filmmaker straight from the start? Are you jumping in where someone has already done a design and they're telling you, actually, we have that design, but we don't like it. So can you do another one? And you already have that baggage, with you, and you have to kind of, try to make it work with that base in mind. And, there's lots of different types of constraint that can happen. And obviously, the more you go down the chain and the more and more constraints you have, and it could also be, like Ivan was saying, principal photography is there, you have a plate, boom, that's it, that's the constraint. From that point on, you have to match the lighting, you have to, so it's every time the parameters of design are changing, and those are more or less constraining, really. So it really depends where you're jumping in.
That's funny. You described that, and it's literally, it looks like a pyramid to me. Like, you start with the pitch, and it narrows down till the post-production, and you clear out the wrinkles on someone's face, like at the very, very last stage. And there's not much freedom, guys. Yeah, I can tell you that.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, though, is that, at that point, that's how much a movie is crafted. It's going from something that's like out of nowhere to a point where at the end it's just like those crazy details that you're putting into, all of those are there on purpose. It's not like completely random. It's not just like magically appearing. Everything has been designed, and yeah, I mean, like Ivan said at the end, it's very much just focusing on details.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know. I feel like sometimes the directors come in and like with a broad, like, oh, whatever you want. Like, I'm looking for ideas, and sometimes it's like, oh no, I actually have a particular idea, and we need to hit it. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had a week where I had to design and think, and I just can't wait to receive a project where I'm at the end of the pyramid, like Ivan was saying. Where I just want to get the plate, and I want to, have a very narrow brief, because I've already spent all my creative juice throughout the week. So, that's something cool about the job. How are we doing with time? Guys, I'm looking at the numbers of people. I think we started with 260 something, and we're at 210. So we're slowly losing some. But it's good.
No, that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
Yeah, they didn't know that the last one we're gonna hire, right? Who stands,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The last one who stays is
Okay,
higher. Yeah.
so yeah.
Anyway, so we have a little bit more time. How are you guys doing? Are you guys tired? Do you guys want to take a break? And this is for everyone, for people on YouTube or.
I would suggest we start with Q&A, or I mean with the portfolio review. Yeah, because I think it's late and yeah.
Okay, so let's. I think we have five more questions, and then we can do. Maybe we have time for a couple portfolio reviews.
Yeah, if you guys feel like sharing your art, we can definitely
people are like doing great, chilling, hire us. Yeah, man, these guys are so nice. Guys, I'm so thankful that you guys are here hanging out with us. It's incredible.
I just want to say, like, if I don't know if there's a question about sort of how. I think the main question is how to get in. No, is that the question that everyone's interested in? No? Was it asked or not?
You should answer it, man. I'm sure people are wondering how to get in.
Yeah, I just wanted to generally say about this whole presentation style, why we sort of did it this way. Like, to me, I personally think, I mean, we obviously could do the demo of showing, but there's so many tutorials and how to do things and everything. And I think for us, like, the goal was just maybe to open up a little bit how sort of the system work, and maybe sort of just to have a better understanding sort of how and because the sad truth is it's just put in the time. It's just painting, whatever you do, painting, drawing, 3D modeling and stuff. It's like it's really boring. Honestly, it's really boring. You just do stuff and you just get better. I mean, there's obvious like shortcuts and stuff with like 3D, and again, I don't want to sound like an old person, but it feels like
you're not. So
I was like, honestly, I was like hired 5 years ago, and it was, to me, it felt very different right now in terms of tutorials and stuff. I'm pretty much sure everybody talks about like 5 years ago there was no tutorials, but I feel right now it's crazy how much things you can learn. And in terms of like studying things, like I think the Blender, like Blender is absolute like the must-have like right now as a 3D software. Yeah, this is just my personal stuff, personal opinion. Yeah, but yeah, just wanted to say for someone who like maybe didn't expect what the lecture is gonna be, I just want to point out. Yeah, we just open up a little bit, talking about the different process, what exactly you're doing for each stuff, and then it's just for you to think about it, decide what the main thing what you like. It's always the answer, like just how you feel. It's a creature, it's 3D and stuff, and you'll figure it out. Again, you try everything, and then Pyram is gonna sort of narrow it down. Like I personally, I know exactly what I like to do. It's like much more clear now. So yeah, I think I trailed off.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, let's.
That's good. No worries.
All right, so let's do the last 5 questions, and then people are asking, where do I send my portfolio? Honestly, I think we're gonna have very little time, so it's almost gonna be random. I'm sorry, guys, but keep in touch. We are always happy to help out. So just write a link to your portfolio in the chat, and then honestly, it's going to be random because we didn't go through them before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
but
do some for now, and then like you can send on my Instagram.
Yeah, feel free to also, you know, just send them on LinkedIn or you know, any ways we'll review them and let you know.
Yeah, go back to the frame with the
Again,
hands.
it's just okay. I'm going back.
All right, I'm gonna ask the last 5 questions real quick.
Okay,
Let's try to do it. You see it more ideal from the studio's hiring perspective to have an artist with a unique style or one that fits perfectly into the IP's established visual style? Does that make sense?
Well, I guess if you have a unique style or one that fits, I mean, that's kind of what they would do, right? They would make sure that your style, if it's unique, fits. Like if it doesn't fit, then you would, you know, it would pass by. For our type of art department, obviously, the more polyvalent you are, the better, right? If we know that you can adapt and we can react to several like different types of brief, it's obviously, you know, better. If we know that you can do keyframe, if you can design creature, then it's obviously better to have a broader set of skills. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Actually, it's interesting. So Marianne, our production designer, our production manager, she's in the chat.
Producer.
Yeah. She just our producer. She just said, "Send me your portfolios." Just to give you an idea, we're always looking for freelancers, and so I don't know if she meant it, but just send us your
sure stuff. Of course she did. We're looking at the moment, so yeah, of course she meant it.
Just because maybe we should find her email. Anyway, 4 more questions. Did you guys work very long hours out there in Technicolor? It's a difficult question. I would say that it varies. We are very fortunate to have a very supportive team. Marianne, the person I was talking about, she makes sure that we are organized in a way that if we need, like if we have a lot of work, we hire more freelancers, right? And so that's where the managers basically help us out. And again, it varies. During these crazy times, our hours have shifted. Leand, as an art director, obviously has a lot more work than we do, but it varies. I personally can tell you that I'm really happy with the time that I spend at Technicolor because I'm with such an amazing team and I've been with these guys for a while. Ask a question. When you join a team, ask like, what does crunch time look like? I think it's an important question.
For me?
No,
in general.
In general, I think it's important for people to ask when they join, like, what does it look like when we are like Snap? Just to know it.
Yeah.
You want to say something, Ivan?
No, I was just gonna say that I think, it's very rare. Personally, for me, it was a little bit more back at the London office, but here in LA, it's for some reason more relaxed. I don't know why. It's like something different
I think it's
about
also,
California.
I think it's also when you start, you know, being a bit more comfortable, you know, with what you're doing. I mean, when I started, obviously, I wasn't working as fast as I'm working now, so I tend to put a bit more hours, you know, because I felt like, you know, I have to deliver a little bit more than. But as you get comfortable, you know, it's as you're working faster, you get more experience. You know, it's gonna be a little bit easier as well.
3 more questions. 2 more questions. Out of curiosity, Kong Lee Duong asked, out of all the projects that you guys have worked on and can talk about, what has been each of your favorites? I don't think.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kong. Honestly, it's we want to make sure that all the studios and all the clients are happy, and it wouldn't be fair to them to be like, "Oh, this is my favorite," and you know.
Indeed.
But yeah, good question, tricky question.
Good try.
Good try. Greed, the 8th. Oh, no, 13th. Greed, 13th question. Is being a concept artist pretty exhausting and draining? Or are you guys able to keep your energy going and have fun and enjoyment? I think it varies.
Yeah.
It varies. It definitely can be hard, and sometimes you get the IP that you love, right? Like, oh, I always wanted to work on this subject matter. I always wanted to do that, and then sometimes it's like something you're not familiar with, and it gets tricky. I think it's just like any other job in that sense. It's ups and
Yeah,
downs.
there is. Yeah, I don't think there's nothing like in particular about it, or nothing like a secret truth or anything. It's just a job like any other ones, and some days you're gonna have to, think a lot, and you're gonna be exhausted, and some days it's gonna be like rendering day. You just have to render that stuff, and then you're gonna feel like you've got lots of energy at the end of the day. It just really depends on. And it depends on your personality as well. I mean, some people find rendering super hard and designing easy. It really depends as well of your skills. And yeah, there's no hidden truth there, to be fair. I think it's just a job.
Yeah, it varies a lot. All right, so those are the questions that got asked the most, and they. Sorry, we couldn't get to all of your questions. I saw there were hundreds. Again, stay in touch. Feel free to ask us personally.
Of course, yeah.
To you soon. In the meantime, I guess people are posting some portfolio links. So maybe we can do. We have 30 minutes, so maybe we can do 3 or 4. What do you think, Ivan? Since you're controlling.
Yeah, go
engineering. Okay, I'll copy a few. Oh, okay, 1 second. You can guys just talk for now.
Well, we're down to 197 people, so we're
we're losing people. That's okay. That's fair enough.
That's good. Again, thank you so much to everyone who's been with us today. It's incredible, the interest, and yeah, we hope to work with you in the future.
Okay, 1 second. Oh my God, so much. Okay, I'm just copying a few. How many guys do you want to take a look
Let's
at?
do 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Let's see how much time we have. I just realized people cannot post links on YouTube, so I think it's gonna have to be like the users.
Yeah, I'm copying. Oh, it's moving fast. Okay. I have 3.
Yeah, grab them and set them up. Someone in the meantime, what is the difference between MPC and Technicolor?
Oh, it's a good question, guys.
It's a good question. So basically, the way it's set up now is that Technicolor is kind of the mother company, and under that umbrella, you have a lot of different companies. You have Mr. X, you have MPC, and every type of companies is doing kind of a different type of subject. So you've got some episodic departments, so they're just gonna handle episodic, and then you've got MPC, who's still very much doing film, but I think they have part of it is episodic, but I'm not quite sure actually. But so MPC is one part of one company that's under the umbrella of Technicolor. And obviously on the side Technicolor, they have so many more businesses, and like home entertainment, and like lots of like different type of business on the side, like post-production type business for sound and all that type of stuff.
Okay, 1 second. So it's gonna just look like that, guys.
Okay, so that's our portfolio.
So Anik Sidker, I think. Sorry. Are you guys seeing it, or is that?
I'm gonna have to lean in, and it's actually pretty small on my screen.
Maybe you go through it, Ivan, and I'll open it in my browser.
You know what? I don't care how we
we
look.
don't care about our faces, exactly, you're right.
Who cares about this?
Yeah.
Okay, so All right. So
So I guess he's focused more on
yes.
prop design and environment design, and it seems like it's I don't know. I see this more as a video game type of portfolio because he's basically showing every angle of the house. And, I mean, I can tell you have the
1 second.
designing skills.
Yeah, medieval Japanese architecture.
Okay.
This is a stuff. Do you guys want to go look through everything?
No, maybe just
we can look through. I mean, it's very much the type of work that you would do in production design, right? You would kind of sort out environments and start looking at very diagrammatic ways of depicting the environment for the builders, and so they can start, building on set. Obviously, you would have like plans on quotes and everything, so it can be built properly. But
yeah, I personally think this like this like especially this one is pretty cool. I think it's definitely gives a vibe what it's about, medieval fantasy sort of. Yeah, again, as a one specific type of work.
Yeah, so I would say in order to get hired, you seem to be someone who wants to specialize. At least that's what your portfolio is telling me for this type of work. So maybe you're brought into a particular art department to design, maybe even set.
It feels for me that would be very much like someone who would want to contact a production designer, really, to just be design sets, and that seems to be very much the case. Obviously, if that's what you do, you need to have a little bit more material, a little bit more style, and you're on the way, because I can see already that you've got like a few different type of cultures and. But yeah, what's important as well is to be able to show those design. If we're talking film, right, is that what does that house that you've designed look like? Like, what would that look like in the film, for example? It's can you render those design that you've come up with to sell it to a director or a production designer to prove that what you've designed there actually would work in an image in the film, for example.
I would say that last image you're looking at the moment, it's a bit confusing because it kind of like goes more into the realm of illustration. And thinking about the stuff we talked about today, it's harder to know where to place it, like what part of our tasks you are addressing. So I would, for this image, I think I would like to see maybe that since you're focusing so much in props and environment, maybe it'd be cool to see the whole room, maybe, or if you want to do characters, you want to focus on that character, maybe show us more of what is happening. So this would be more like part of a package as opposed to an individual image.
Yeah, I think Leander said it pretty well in terms of I would definitely be interested to see the texture, like next level, how you go from there to have the. So we guys, guys, I just want to say I know I have a lot of messages. Just I didn't. Somebody mentioned in the comments. It's just I don't go to our station, but like I said, I'll be answering in Instagram. So yeah. Okay. So Patrick, okay, all right. Starting, okay, it's a lot of images. Okay, let's read description. So, box of mystery, soulstone.
I mean, that is something that, would we would get to do as a part of a pitch, or doing this type of like sequence, and be able to show like a continuity between different images, and all of that being as filmic as possible. And that would also be the type of research we would go through. So that's kind of that's kind of exactly what we were talking about really previously.
I think it's pretty good. Like, yeah, definitely in terms of mood boards is exactly what we were saying. My first like the first reaction, if that's supposed to be a storyboard, if I'm understanding correctly, it's a little bit sort of if that's one frame goes to another.
No, I think that's the last one actually, right? The first one is the last one. Oh, okay, no, maybe not then.
It's like cutting. Yeah, maybe I don't understand the intention, but if that's supposed to be a storyboard, and it's kind of a little bit distracting of what's exactly going on. But yeah, other than that, it's I think as a research and the mood piece, I think it's pretty good. Okay, okay guys, we need minutes. Okay, illustration. Very simple.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as an idea. Do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say this one feels a bit more like illustration, which might be something you're interested in. But I think I don't know what your...
I would say, I mean, interestingly enough, I might contradict myself there, but I've noticed from experience that even if an image is more illustrative or less photorealistic, if the idea is better, for sure you would win every time. And as I can speak for myself, and I'm coming from post-production before, and I turned at the very beginning, I spent a lot of time, in doing details and trying to be as realistic as possible, and losing sight of, how strong that image could look, how graphic it could read, and all those things. If you have a good read, even if it's a bit more illustrative, if the ideas are there, you're always gonna win for sure. So, in some circumstances, being more illustrative is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as the rest is perfect.
Yeah. No, again, I think it's great. Just again, it's coming again, circling back to what we were talking. Like, if there was like specific idea behind it, or maybe it was like a stream of conscience piece, and sort of in terms of brief. Okay.
I would say I always like to see, if not a set, like that this is part of. Think of we're coming into your portfolio looking for what film you're working on, and even if the movie doesn't exist, we want to believe that it was for a movie. So if you can give us more context or work on multiple images for the same story you are creating, makes it easier for us to identify the types of problems that you're solving. Yeah, I'm going through most of the pieces, and I see a lot of cool individual pieces throughout your portfolio, like I see this. Can you?
What is it for it? Should I hold?
Oh, there's this. If you go forward a couple of times.
Okay.
Next. Like, for example, these ones, like I want to see, I can tell this is part of a story that you were thinking of, and I would like to see within the same project maybe a close-up of the castle, or like a different angle of the story, a different part of the story, and that immediately will make me feel more like this is an entire project, because that's usually what we work on, like multiple images or solutions for one movie.
Okay. So this one, and I'm just just want to see until the end of the portfolio. Okay, so the characters. Oh, it's a studies, right? I mean, yeah, that was one of my favorite things to do. Just these kind of studies definitely help. Black and white studies, just to break down the surface, like surfaces, and understand like. So this is definitely a good thing to do. I mean, yeah, I'm not talking right now about like hiring part, but just okay, sketches. Yeah, I think it's pretty very sort of wide range.
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, there is a lot of strong things in there.
Yeah, vehicle design. Yeah, I think it's a good example, like good example of portfolio. Okay. Oh, yeah, like shot studies. See Lincoln.
The
Okay,
yeah,
I think we're going to an.
That's the one I meant, like one of the ones where I felt like it's just one image that didn't give me enough context.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of guys. It's sort of it's a kind of maybe things that not as strong, and to me personally, it's a little bit stands out right now. Again, it's a matter of choosing what you leave in your portfolio.
I think the one thing I would say in a portfolio, and you can argue obviously that's your ArtStation page, so it's not maybe a portfolio, is that if you go to an art director with a portfolio, don't show your studies. Like I don't want to know or to see that you've done a study of Jeff Bridges, in True Grit. That for me, that doesn't matter, and I don't want to know that you can analyze the value structure of an image or anything like that. That doesn't matter. What I want to see is the work you're doing. The studies, it's obviously super important, and you should do a lot of studies, but that's not something that you kind of showcase in a portfolio. It's not. I don't think it should be part of a portfolio in that sense.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Leon, for saying that. Yeah, because I meant using it as a practice, but definitely don't put it in your portfolio. Okay,
we have time for two more portfolios, 2 10-minute portfolios. Okay. So let's jump to another one.
Okay, so yeah, I just want to say, I think generally it's a really good selection of things. Maybe,
it's a lot of skills.
Yeah, like earlier works might go, and my personal thing, like I know this work particularly was made like 3 years ago, but this kind of thing to me it's just been way too much on the internet. Just one person sort of in the landscape. If there's it's very personal. I kind of want something more, but but generally pretty good one. Okay, Tiago Palma. Okay, we have comic stuff here. Yeah, I think it's more character related.
Yeah, I think, even in his profile, he's saying he's illustrator, art director, comic book artist. So maybe this is more geared towards illustration. Which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, graphic design and.
I would say, Tiago, that I'm not sure. I'm sure you're sharing things that you're doing personally for not just to get hired, but just to share your process and stuff. But it'd be cool to have a better idea of what you would like to do professionally. I get an idea, like comic books and stuff. But I get a little bit confused with that top right corner image. Can you guys? Yeah, to the very right on top. That kind of defies the rest of your portfolio, which is very focused on characters. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's just harder to categorize you and know, like, can we hire him?
Yeah, it's just different, a little bit different in terms of the approach. Like to me.
it's lacking maybe the cinematographic aspect, but also, you know, going back to that image on the top right, right? It's that what I was saying about, I need to know that I can, you know, maybe trust your eye or your taste. And sometimes, you know, with certain images that you put in, you know, if I look at this,
That's
which
awesome.
is, yeah, compared to that one on the top right, I'm wondering,
Yeah.
whoa, is that the same guy who did
Like
that, you know?
like there's
And
a
that's the thing, it's like,
no.
yeah, Ivan?
No, I was gonna say like this is super cool. Even coming
Yeah,
back to what we show, like this French illustrator. Sorry, I forgot the name. That used a couple work with
Stefan, yeah.
which Stefan, which doing like he just doing this, and he's like one of the most amazing person in the world who does that, and he get hired for that. So again, it's all about how do you feel if you, sort of for us it's a little bit different sort of range of stuff. Okay, so and Jim Martin, United States. Okay, this is Star Wars.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there is yeah, there's a lot of different medium that are used here, and that's pretty interesting. I think what I would pay attention to in some of those, for example, is in terms of images, it's how you control your values, how you give a sense of, you know, depth and volume and perspective in your images. That's the first thing that is jumping for me when I look at some of those images.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. I think just the basics, uh, like
Some of
even
the fundamentals, yeah.
yeah, even like the composition. I mean, I'll say kind of works for me. Yeah, it's just the basics of light and even atmospheric depth. Like for example, like they say they even darker than the person like on the foreground. I mean, yeah, this sort of stuff. Did we look at all of that? I think I didn't find one person. Yeah, like I said, guys. Yeah, it's I guess variety is. We'll say.
Yeah, and you know, it goes back to what we were saying. Only put the ones that, you know, you're the most proud of, and I'd rather see 5 that are really good than 10, which, you know, 5 of those are not that great, and then I'm gonna start questioning you.
Okay. Yeah. Do you guys want to say anything else?
I don't know. I think that's it for us. I cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank you enough, guys, hanging out with us. It's incredible to see the amount of people that showed up. We managed to hold 191 people.
We didn't know, honestly, we didn't know what to expect and how many people are showed up and will show up. But yeah, guys, thank you very much, and
please stay in touch.
Yeah.
And you know, we hope that it's helpful for you. And any question, like Farid was just saying, and I just cut him very rudely, but anything you want to ask, if you have more questions that are not answered, you can still ask, you know, privately, and we'll try to answer.
Okay.
Sorry, Farid, keep going.
No, that's it. What is it? I'm just looking at. They're asking us to pick one more portfolio.
Okay. Let's do that.
Let's just do one more. It's Can I tell you the name, Ivan? Can I type it on the chat and you put it in?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let me put it here in our chat. Just before we say bye. Do you see it? In the chat here on Discord?
In Discord. Oh, actually, I'm afraid. Can you send a Slack? I'm afraid to open Discord. Actually.
One last one. It's on Slack.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay.
Leticia Hack, I believe is.
Okay. Letizia Park. Okay, do you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, let's look at everything all together. Okay, characters, environment. I mean, the style pretty fun.
Yeah, I think, I mean, so, out of the, straight from the start, when I look at that first page, it feels to me, yeah, definitely we're more in the animation, video game type of character. I like that you're studying the pose and you're really trying to find, the way he can stand and giving him, a meaning and really using how the posture of the character to convey that feeling, and that's pretty cool actually.
No, I think it's super fun character. Yeah, definitely see for some reason. Yeah, the way he moves and then the.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, when you design characters and creatures, it's very important to be aware of that and to really take that into account when you start posing and looking for those opportunities. It says a lot you can tell a story with just a posture for sure.
Yeah.
Winter challenge.
I particularly like the one. Can you move forward? The one with the, I believe it's like a soldier, like a warrior woman. This one, the fact that she's taking over an entire project. So the previous one and this one, she's addressing multiples, like this thing that we keep talking about, like options.
Oh yeah.
I think you can go a bit more in depth in terms of culture, like one more step that tells me like that extra thing about her. But in general, I love the fact that you are giving us so many options, and I think that's really important.
I would say for in terms of working in film, I think when you've covered all that ground, you've done all those research and you've pinpoint one design that you think works, that's when you need to invest your time in terms of how you depict it, in terms of the rendering of it, and in terms of how you use the values, or you use like a realistic lighting. And that's when, and then from there, you're going to go away from illustration and you're going to go more for something that's more photoreal. And photoreal doesn't mean detail or textured, by the way, right? It's really about the lighting, the quality of the lighting, and how you render the material. And it can be incredibly sketchy. Like you see some artists who they can paint something very quickly with very few brushstrokes, but even though it looks realistic. So that's what I'm talking about when I say photoreal. But I think once you've narrowed down that design, you spend your time doing that image and selling your design. That's then you're more in film, opposed to being more in animation or video game. And that goes studying from photos, from life, and understanding material quality and all that stuff. But you do already have an understanding of that, because I can see it in your images.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll say for my personal experience, like the way I sort of my study process is definitely started with just painting. I was just sort of painting, and then slowly you paint. First you paint with just black and white values, and you started to understand how light reacts and things, and later you introduce the color. Then I was starting using photo text. Like for this one, I think most of the stuff is good. The next step would be maybe found the photo of that position of the hand, and not necessarily using it, but just maybe using it as a reference and painting over, or sort of looking into the folds, because the folds are a little bit unrealistic and stuff, and slowly getting these details right.
Yeah, and it goes back to using reference. I mean, it's what we were saying is that if you don't know how something looks like, you're going to make it up. Your brain is going to take over naturally, and you're going to start making stuff up. And that's when, if you haven't studied enough or used reference, then you're going to go down the road of, here you're stylizing again, opposed to trying to paint something that looks realistic or that looks believable.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, I definitely see the progress. Like, this was posted a year ago, and anatomy is definitely undefined and very sort of, and I think sort of Yeah, like even this one, the next one is already looks better to me. Especially though, those are really cool, like just variations.
Yeah. And I think for everyone that we have the 80-20 rule, just to keep in mind, because it's a very frustrating part. Like I'm sure that you'll get to where you are at in 80% of the time, and then when you have to reach that final level of finish, you actually you spend 80% of your time in that 20% of the final stage, and that happens to us too. You know, like we feel like, oh, like this is pretty easy, like it looks like an image, and then that moment of having to dwell in the details immediately feels like you are spending the same amount that you just spent on less. So just keep in mind this happens to everyone.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's when you need to be also, smart about where you're putting the details, right? What counts in the design, what counts in the story you're trying to tell, and so on.
All right. Well, I think that's it for us. Honestly, guys, thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for listening to us for this amount of time. Keep in touch. I just want to say I also have a panel tomorrow with Max, who also works with us quite often, Max Kostenko, and we're going to do portfolio reviews tomorrow at 8 p.m. And we have another small panel.
Wait, Max Kostenko?
Yeah, Kovshenikov, right?
Kovshenikov.
It's the other Max.
He goes with the class.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you wanna join us, that'd be pretty cool. But just for today, I'm so humbly grateful to you for hanging out with us.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
And keep in touch for sure.
Definitely.
All right. We're almost at 2 hours. Okay. Have a good night or good morning.
Good day.
Depending wherever it is. Okay, bye.